to you or something. I don't know.
I'm
man.
cool as a cucumber,
You're
man.
cool.
No lotion on me.
Well, it says 95, 97
It jumped
on the
2 degrees since we started talking.
and we're in the shade with the fans. Man.
With actual, like, ceiling fans. Yeah.
So you could accomplish a lot of things today, and one of them is you could lose some LBs while you're out there on that course.
Well, I ate a platter full of Uncle Bud's as soon as I got here.
Oh, you did? I just
everything
stuffed down the fish.
It wasn't a plate. It's a platter. Yeah. I ate all of it.
Yeah. Oh, it's delicioso. I had to smother it with, you know what, Mickey? Hot sauce, because I love hot stuff. Man, and it was awesome. It probably would have been great without it, but I just had to have that.
Did they have some, or did you bring it?
No, they have it in the packages. You got to tear them, open it, just pour it on there.
Okay.
You didn't see all the.
I know you're a big hot sauce fan. Did you ever get to the point where you traveled? I know people who love hot sauce that actually take it with them when they go places.
Yeah, hot sauce is probably not too good for you, but I love hot sauce.
I think it's okay.
It's okay.
Lucas is young. Lucas, there's nothing bad for you with hot sauce, is there?
No. Hot sauce is like 50% of my diet.
I cannot put my headphones on because my ears are sweating. So I don't want to pass any sweaty, lotion to ears to the headphones.
He offered 2 quick no's. He said, no, you're fine.
Oh, no? Okay.
Two Rivers Ford making this happen for us today. Two Rivers Ford, powered by Ford, driven by people. Also, comprehensive security, Uptown Mail, Spa, Ferguson PPE, RTM Roofing, R3 Contractors, Hiller, Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, King & Associates Insurance, Mark Spain Real Estate, Brentwood Jewelry, and, of course, the fantastic folks at Fight DMD. Got to visit with Terry Marlin earlier today, but just always fun to catch up with the people who listen to the Zone, and we get to see some of our coworkers that we really never get to see now because of COVID.
I know.
But it's fun to come out here, and there's a gentleman who just came up to the table, and he always comes and finds you when we're out here and says hello. Like, they're just people who just kind of come out to just see what's going on and be part of the thing, and that's fun, too. It's fun to see everybody.
Man, it's fun to see that water over there, man. I may take a plunge in there. Yeah, that plunge over there. Yeah, over there, man. I think they have that water running just for that over there.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. There's a hole with active water.
Yeah, I'm sure it's some form of an irrigation system. They're definitely saving on water and not spending extra water on the water bill. So I'm sure that's probably something that they can control because that's on purposely. So, yeah, I had someone explain that to me while that was on too, though.
Golf course maintenance.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They had to fill up the pond over there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Something's got to fill it up.
Yeah. What if you think they have some fish in there?
They would have to. Anytime you got a pond that big, there's some fish in the pond because somebody wants to fish in it. Now, there's probably 8 million golf balls in there that the fish are swimming with, but I bet there's a fish or two in there.
Oh.
Probably a perch.
Do you keep fish in your pond in your backyard? Or we're over there, having a little powwow last night there, and I was just wondering if you have fish in your pond in your backyard there.
Oh, I inherited the biggest mess of a backyard you've ever seen. I'm still mad about it.
That pond is still being, designed now.
Oh, no, there's no design. I spent months, years out there with a shovel digging up some leftover koi ponds that were nothing but a home for snakes. Oh. So I reached under there and started pulling that thing out. Snakes go in every direction.
What?
Yeah, they go in my garage and everything else.
Were you scared?
No, because I can move pretty fast.
Oh, you move pretty fast. But what you really wanted to say without insulting me, like, I wasn't scared of those little bitty snakes, but I would have ran so fast. I don't care what size snake it is. When I don't know much about you, I'm out. So it might have been, maybe I would have called Marshall Falk for that touchdown, man. Maybe if I would have been running scared like
How
that.
How fast was he?
I don't know. He's pretty fast.
Because
I don't know.
Just to watch him, like a lot of fast guys are more slight build. He looked thick. I mean, you're bringing up Marshall Falk. He just never, like you look at Dexter McCluster. He was just this slight little guy, and you'd be like, oh, that's like a jitterbug.
Yeah.
Falk looked like he would.
Oh, well, he was a running back. He had some thickness to him, but he was silky smooth in his style and running, where he just was so fluid. It looks like it was effortless. And, he was, low 4.4, probably 4.3 guy. I mean, he was, he's an exception. He's the Hall of Fame player. Yeah, he was fast. It's funny because every time you see him run, it's like everything is running in unison, and he never, misses a step or a beat or, man, he was so fluid and smooth.
And maybe that was the thing. He just made it look so easy. Yeah. And that's what a Hall of Famer does. They make the hard stuff look easy.
Yeah, and that's why I'm not in, because I definitely made it look like a struggle just to even run out there. elbows out, legs out. You're like, that guy, does he even know how to run?
You got to where you were going now.
Yeah, I was just, Benny Hilling it all the way there for all those people that remembers Benny Hill.
Oh, yeah.
They're like, who the
Yakety
heck
sax.
is that?
No, there's people who know Benny Hill. Who needs to be running around tomorrow night? And we can certainly talk about this in the next couple of hours. Who needs to be running around tomorrow night like Benny Hill, Blaine, to try to put their last? Because here's the thing. You may not make the Titans, but you put some stuff on tape. You might make another team. You know? I mean, these guys out there trying to make somebody's roster.
Well, yeah, I would say everyone involved, because right now it looks like, at least from the Titans' view, they're going to play a lot of the backup guys. It doesn't look like any of the starters are going to be out there, at least on the offensive side. So I would say everybody that's out there that's starting, because when you're a 2, you could eventually become a 3 because they decide to go in a different direction, regardless of how good you play or how well you've done. It becomes a numbers game, and depending on what position you play and everything else. So I would say everybody's playing for their lives. I think that's why the Titans have done so well in the preseason, for what it's worth, is because they have brought in backups behind backups, and the roster is so deep now at this point in time. Everybody's competing for a job, and now everybody's elevated their game. And that's what you want, especially with your backup guys. So there's going to be guys that do really well and probably end up getting cut and get on another team. And it's going to be some that get to stay, and some put on practice squad, some to put on IR to preserve them to stay with the Titans. So I'm interested to see who actually had a big day. But, I still want to see Farley. I still want to see Mo. Naturally, you're always interested in the draft picks to see how well they do and how they continue to improve and get used to the pro game. So, yeah, but, there's a lot of battles out here. The running back battle, and for sure the quarterback battle. And I guess Mr. Vrabel told us who the starter was accidentally or purposely. I have no idea. But that he was going to start the first 2 series, and then they're going to do the rotation again with Woodside. So that's one I'm going to really be watching. I really want to see Woodside throw down the field. And sometimes, it didn't dictate that he should have, but at some point you got to let it fly. And I hope he doesn't try to force something that's not there and make a mistake. But you gotta let it loose. What do you have to lose at this point? I think the Titans are going to keep 3 quarterbacks in some form or fashion anyway. I think you've mentioned that before. But you still don't want to let go and relinquish that number 2 spot. And I think it's his to lose. But I think Barkley is right there, right there with him. And for him to get to start after 2 weeks, it's pretty significant in that they think he understands the playbook and has some good leadership skills and has performed well enough to start first. So we shall say, and I know Logan started the last time, but Logan's been here. So in my mind, he should be starting again. Once that starts happening, you start pressing. So let's see if Logan Woodside relax and just plays his game, because he knows what's going on. As much as they're friendly in the meeting room, a guy that just showed up here 2 weeks ago, now all of a sudden is getting a chance to start. Yeah. And, so you're going to be competing, and you want to see how well he responds to that and see if he relaxes and just kind of play his game and not force issues and, force it down the field into a mistake.
Yeah, all that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I'm watching all of that. Especially, these O-line, D-line guys that, we're not watching really close. I think, man, on the defensive side, I think they got some potential guys that make the roster now. Offensively, the offensive line, man, some of those guys are struggling. So maybe 1 guy or 2 guys outside of the draft picks show us something where they deserve to, make the practice squad, because it's been tough sledding to, run the football and get protection for those quarterbacks. And naturally, Sargent and the backup running back spot, maybe Hill steps up today. I don't know. McNichols is out, right?
Yeah, COVID.
With COVID.
List. Yeah.
So, so we shall see, man. Hey, man, it's an exciting time. To me, you should relish and embrace the whole moment and go out there and have some fun. At the end of the day, all you can control is you and what you do out there to perform. And if that's not good enough, you want to say, I had a heck of a run, and hopefully I'll get picked up, if not by the Titans, by somebody else.
Leave it all out on the field.
Yeah.
You got the opportunity.
Because the eye in the sky is going to determine if you're in the league or not. They don't miss too often.
Well, we're going to be talking about this a lot today for sure. Buck Reising will join us in the next segment. We'll go through it with him. We'll also check in with Jeff Dickerson, who covers the Bears for ESPN in Chicago. He can probably give us a pretty good scouting report on old Matt Barkley. He's been up there covering the Bears for a while, so we'll get the inside scoop on him and everything that's going on in the Windy City. But going to be a fun day, going to be a fun show. If you're on Zone TV, you can get a little bit of an idea where we are on this porch where it's cooled down to 94.8 degrees since we started the show.
That's
It's
good.
really comfortable here. But no matter how you're consuming the show, we're happy to have you with us on this beautiful Friday. This is Blaine and Mickey on 104.5 The Zone.
Want to listen to the Titans on your smartphone?
Gonna run Henry. Finds room up the middle. He's to the 35 to the 40. Midfield. 40, 30, 20, 10, 5. End zone. Ladies and gentlemen, 69 yards. Derrick Henry. Touchdown! Titans!
Get Mike Keith and Coach Mack calling every Titans game by downloading the 104.5 The Zone app.
sponsors. Buck Reising was out here earlier. Buck, I know you took off. You'd spend a few hours out here today at this lovely golf course. Not a bad way to spend a day talking about sports and watching people hit a few golf balls.
No, especially when you find the breeze out there, because that's critical. And I know you had that situation figured out long before I did, so I was grateful for your expertise in that regard.
You don't stay this clear, Buck, without knowing where every shade is and where all the wind blows everywhere you go, for sure. Let me ask you this. If we just had to jog your brain here, there are 80 guys left roughly on every NFL roster, so let's say there are 80 Titans that are going to have an opportunity to play on Saturday night. How many roster spots would you say are still up for grabs? When you distill those 80 people down, how many roster spots can still be won, do you think, right now? Buck being very quiet here. He's taking plenty of time to think about this, Lucas. Either we lost him or this is just the longest he's ever thought before he gave an answer.
Well, he is driving through Eagleville, so I don't know. Maybe he lost something.
Okay. Well, is he still? Does it appear that he's still on or no?
Yeah, he's. Oh, there he goes.
Oh, there he is. Hey, Buck, we didn't hear a word you said. So if you would like,
but that was great content, though.
I'm sure some of the best you've ever done.
That was the best you've ever done.
Is
silence.
It's been so long since I've been asked to be quiet. No, I mean, we're out here in the middle of nowhere. I got no cell phone signal, so this is a failed endeavor. But I'll say I would say about 15, Mickey, out of the all of the roster spots that are available. I would say that there are probably 15 that you know or that you don't know for sure who is going to fill those roles. And I think that whether you're talking about 53-man active roster, whether you look at the 46 once they get to the regular season on game day, and then, of course, the expanded 16-man practice squad, I'd say there's about 15 spots that these guys can try and find among the dudes that are competing on Saturday.
Well, to add to that, Buck, do you take into consideration how will, the COVID positive test and everything else affect the actual roster and who's vaccinated and who's not? I mean, let's even take it, a little further than that. How much do you think that impacts the roster?
Well, of course it does. I mean, you're Ryan Tannehill, assuming that if he's not clear by Tuesday, then you have to take into account the fact that your starting quarterback is going to be on the COVID reserve list, and that you need some kind of backup situation for either Matt Barkley or Logan Woodside. And so that probably preserves a job, maybe not for a long period of time, but certainly in the immediate, it's going to absolutely affect the math when you look at guys who are on the list right now, from depth dudes to like Nick DeSumo.
Yeah, like McNichols at running back to Sargent maybe making a roster.
Another one. Absolutely. Like, it's going to affect the math based on how these guys, and all their timelines are probably going to vary, but it's absolutely going to affect the math and how they go about putting together the roster in the immediate.
Buck Reising, our guest, brought to you by Two Rivers Ford, home of the non-commissioned sales people. So who's a guy or two that really come to mind to you that need to go out and play at a high level to ensure that they make the team, or to maybe put themselves in that final consideration to make the team?
I think there's guys that, like Mason Kinsey, I think he could play his heart out and still not make the team. He's just in the wrong camp. I think that somebody like Des Fitzpatrick or Racey McMath even, who has really just been a special teams player, I think that Des is kind of teetering on the right side of things after the way that this whole situation started. But I don't by any means consider him a lock to make this roster. I think that NWI, Nick Westbrook-Akina, has to find ways to make an impression on the coaching staff, whatever he puts on film tomorrow, because he will be in competition for one of these roster spots. And frankly, somebody like Dane Cruikshank, who's been on this team for a couple of years now as a fifth-round draft pick, his job is in jeopardy because his health has been an issue, like Darrington Evans, except ongoing for more years than this. Dane Cruikshank is at risk of seeing himself on the outside looking in, because you have Brady Breeze, you have Matthias Farley, you've seen a number of dudes. Clayton Gathers made a good play on a ball that was tipped up by Elijah Molden against the Bucks. There are plenty of competition or plenty of roster spots to have competition for, and particularly safety. I'm looking at and saying, yeah, Dane Cruikshank and Brady Breeze, they have to find a way to make an impact on this roster because that fourth safety spot is definitely going to be up for grabs.
Yeah. On with Buck Reising, the Buck Reising Show, at A to Z Sports, you name it. He does it all. And right now he joins us on Blaine and Mickey.
As well as McDougal there at Buck at safety.
Yeah.
But with all that being said, let's first start with who is going to be the coach on the sidelines, Buck? Are you going to be doing it?
Yeah. I asked Coach Mack if he was going to do it. He said no. He said he might stop by the Bears sideline for a cup of coffee, see if he couldn't extend his tenure as the one-time Bears head coach for 3 hours.
Yeah.
No, it's based on – so Mike Vrabel didn't seem in a good mood yesterday, which – surprising to no one because his starting quarterback just went on the COVID list, and he's probably not thrilled about it. But he said he mentioned Matt Edwards as the one name and that guys would help out with Matt Edwards. But Matt Edwards is an assistant special teams coach and a defensive assistant for the first time this season, and somebody who is completely anonymous to Titans fans. Now, I mean, Blaine, my initial thought yesterday was like, God, he is trying hard not to say the name of Jim Schwartz because it makes all the sense in the world that it would be Jim Schwartz. But I think that that's like the boogeyman right now. I don't want to say that Mike Vrabel is outright paranoid, but they should be concerned about creating shadows where there might not otherwise be them because Shane Bowen's position is incredibly tenuous, and bringing in Jim Schwartz this offseason in whatever capacity you brought him in is going to put additional pressure on both Bowen and Vrabel to get things right. And if Jim Schwartz looks good in any capacity other than as a senior defensive assistant, it's going to make those two guys sweat a little bit.
How well do you think Radens has to play, to kind of shore up that he will be a versatile guy? Looks like he's going to be a backup, at least this season or initially at the beginning of the season, at guard, but also tackle because he did not perform very well versus Trayon in the Tampa Bay game at tackle. Did fairly well at the guard position, but, man, it's a different animal out there on that island. You tend to see him getting better in this game to make them feel a little more comfortable about him having that role as well?
There was a lot of promise from the Atlanta game, and then you're right. And it wasn't just by Joe Tryon that Dylan Radins got ragdolled. I mean, they put in third and fourth string guys that made Dylan Radins play poorly against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It was not a good outing for that entire offensive line. Basically, until they put in the third string guys, they couldn't get any momentum running the ball as a unit. You saw some of their deficiencies there. He is going to be a depth piece at both tackle and guard. Because, frankly, by no other merit than he's a second-round pick, and also the rest of the guys around him are very, very bad. Like the backup offensive line is very, very bad. So they need him physically to be able to learn and grow in that swing, if you want to call it a swing role, if you want to call him just a backup guard or a backup tackle, understanding that he's probably going to see time at both throughout the course of his tenure. You can look at him and say, all right, he may not be perfect, and he may still have a lot of work to do, and I expect to see a good bit of work for him in this final preseason game. But he's there because the rest of the guys are very bad around him, and they need him to be able to fill in at both guard and tackle as the attrition of the regular season wears on.
Well, I know you cover the Titans better than anybody. What story or player have you kind of really latched on, and it's kind of a feel-good story that it may not come to fruition that he makes the roster, but it was great kind of covering this season?
Yeah, because before you added that qualifier about potentially not making, I would have said Marcus Johnson because he's such a great human interest story. But that dude, as far as I'm concerned, is a lock.
Got you.
With the rest of the roster, I think that somebody like a Mason Kinsey, to kind of go back to that storyline, I think that he does have ability and he clearly plays hard. But he's just in the wrong camp because they have such depth at wide receiver. Another one, Blaine, and I know that fans are probably going to hate to hear this, is Mekhi Sargent. I think Mekhi Sargent is an undrafted rookie. I think that he plays so hard that you you really appreciate how much he clearly loves football and clearly loves to give effort on not just the playing field, but the practice field as well. I just think that with Darrington Evans and McNichols, that he is just not far along in his development as a fully formed player at that position, not just running the ball, but in pass protection as well, because they need him to be a part of that if he's going to be a third down back, which, in the case of Derrick Henry, a lot of these guys are there in their capacity to be specific to third down. So whether that's running routes, whether that's factoring in the passing game or protecting the quarterback in obvious passing situations, he's been such a great story. But I do think even as McNichols is on the COVID list, that it's going to be a steep climb for him to try and make this thing.
With Buck Reising from the Buck Reising Show here, right on 104.5 The Zone, right before our show there, Mickey.
That's right. It's interesting, Buck, because you mentioned Mekhi Sargent. He's one of these guys that the fans, you just fall in love with, these dudes who kind of come from out of nowhere and they're not drafted. But a guy like him, for him to come into camp and he keeps surviving, he survived the first couple of cuts, and he's thrived in games. I think he's had 16 carries in each of the first two games. Certainly a guy like that could find at least a beginning home on the Titans practice squad. And it as Ron Say likes to say, he's in the building, though. If you can make the 16-man practice squad, at least you keep the dream alive another day.
He honestly, outside of like a COVID quarterback, he should be the top option for the practice squad because he embodies everything that they preach on a day in and day out basis that they want out of a football player. So if that is indeed going to be the case, and they are going to stick to those kind of principles that they're telling the entirety of the rest of the team, then it absolutely needs to be something that they consider, because he is such a great effort and energy player, and at a position right now where their numbers aren't great because of injury and because of COVID.
A lot has been made about Julio Jones not practicing, and certainly haven't seen much of Ben Jones or Nate Davis or at times Taylor Lewan and A.J. Brown. You just kind of go down the list, and now Tannehill is missing time because of COVID. I've heard you talk about this. What is your concern level for an offense that is going to need to play at a very high level again, that whole unit does not practice together, I would imagine, one time, all of them together?
Yeah, I mean, it's enough to monitor the situation, right? Like I'm not hitting the nuclear option and saying, all right, everybody panic because the starting offense hasn't practiced together, because these dudes are vets, and they showed during that long layoff, that 16-day layoff with their first go around with COVID, that they could find ways to come out and beat the hell out of a good football team by 26 points in weird circumstances on that Tuesday night football game against the Bills, their first game back. I think it was after Minnesota, if memory serves correctly. I think I have my timeline mixed up on that. But regardless, it was against the Bills once they made their return. Now, ultimately, the thing that I'm most concerned about is right when Julio Jones is starting to come back and Derrick Henry is starting to ramp up, you got to put Ryan Tannehill on the shelf. And it's not something that they're going to put Julio Jones out there during practice to catch passes from Logan Woodside and Matt Barkley. One, because they don't want to risk him and risk an errant pass, making Julio Jones have to fly up in the air to go get it and him come down awkwardly. Because like yesterday, they had him out there for stretch, and then they trotted him back into the building, because that's not who he's going to be working with in a situation once week one rolls around. So it is a concern. It's a legitimate concern. I don't think it's like red alert, but it's enough to say, okay, if they look kind of funky out the gates against Arizona, it's plenty of reason to expect why they might.
Buck Reising joins us. Buck Reising Show, A to Z Sports. You can hear him all over the dial on this station, 104.5 The Zone.
Well, Buck, Matt Barkley will be starting this game in a rotational role with Woodside. So give me your lowdown on who you think is going to win the backup job at quarterback.
So I think that Saturday will go a long way. I don't think it's decided yet, but I think that what they see in Woodside, because Woodside is not the more physically talented quarterback, but he really hasn't been throughout any of these guys that he has beaten out for this backup role. Logan Woodside, they trust more in running the offense. Now, Matt Barkley is different than the other guys who have come before him. He has seen, I don't want to call it a level of success in the NFL, but he has seen plenty of defenses. He has played in plenty of NFL games. He seems to be really comfortable in what they're asking him to do right now with how much of it is predicated off run action and play action and throwing windows with a lot of space out there because of the way that you're using misdirection to put the defense out of place. It is basic football 101 right now that he's playing against, because there's a lot of second stringers and a lot of third stringers. And for somebody who's been in the league since 2013, you should expect him to play that well. But the point remains, I'm watching guys like Blaine Gabbert out there and Ryan Griffin, and Matt Barkley looks a lot better. Physically, the arm talent is better. It comes down to who they trust more to run the playbook and not cost them a game if they should see action in the regular season. I think Woodside still holds the advantage, but I think Matt Barkley can do a lot for himself starting out in this game against the Bears on Saturday.
How much do you think we'll see the first rounder play? Will we get to see more than 15, 16 plays, you think?
I would think so. I would absolutely think so. They've got to find ways to get him more acclimated to the position of corner, because he's just still learning it. So if you're going to do it in games without stakes, I would love to see at least 30 snaps from Caleb Farley. If they think that his back can hold up, I mean, if they don't think that his back can hold up, then he shouldn't be out there as far as I'm concerned. But he needs to get these live action reps in a way that he has to understand the nuances of the position of corner again if he's to make an impact in 2021.
Well, I know we have one more game, but most of the positions are sold up pretty much now. But kind of take us through how many receivers will be kept and who they will be.
So I think if you're going to look at the numbers, 6 makes the most sense at the wide receiver position, because I do still think that they go for 4 tight ends as opposed to 3. But if you're looking at the 6 wide receivers, you obviously have Julio Jones, A.J. Brown. I would say an obvious one is Marcus Johnson and Chester Rogers. I think that Josh Reynolds isn't necessarily a lock, but I think that he has made a great case to make this team. And I hate to squeeze out NWI, but Des Fitzpatrick has made legitimate strides. And I think given that he's a 4th-round pick, it helps him edge out a couple of the guys who were on the fringes, because John Robinson can't have something like that on his record after how badly last year's draft went.
So you're telling me Batson, McMath, and Kinsey are out?
I would say that especially Batson and Kinsey, you have Chester Rogers to play the slot. He's been superior to those two. I think those two do have something, but this is just not the right camp for them to be in.
And Westbrook Akina.
Yeah, NWI's out on that.
Oh, man, you threw a Hoosier out of there?
Yeah.
Listen, Blaine, I honestly, for body of work, I think they ought to keep him over Fitzpatrick, but I'm not the one who drafted Des Fitzpatrick. John Robinson is, and I'm sure there's a little more attachment to somebody like that, given that that's a direct reflection on your resume if you have to cut your 4th-round pick.
Hey, you make mistakes all the time. Hey, man, you had to trade your first rounder the year before, so why not the 4th the next year? Double down.
If you say so.
All right, Bucko, on the way out, I saw Sam Ficken had a rough day of practice. He missed a couple on Tuesday. Supposedly, now we weren't there. You may have been there. Supposedly, Taylor Lewan was yelling at him as he attempted kicks. He had a nice bounce back on Thursday. If he just goes out and does his job on Saturday night, is he the kicker for this team, or do you think Gostkowski is still sitting by the phone at home just awaiting that ring that might never come?
Practice matter, but the game reps matter more, and he's perfect so far. And Lewan was chirping at him on Tuesday. That's exactly right. And good. You know, the kickers need more pressure on them to understand how to perform under pressure. Now, Sam Ficken has been with a couple NFL teams at this point, so he understands it better than somebody like Tucker McCann. But, yeah, if you think that you can stay the course and not take on the salary of Gostkowski, even as, Mickey, you've correctly pointed out that they wouldn't have to guarantee it unless they signed him prior to the regular season beginning, I think that Ficken he has been a safe option. There is no point in disrupting the apple cart right now when all you desperately need at that position is consistency day in and day out. That has been Sam Ficken, despite really his first rough day this past Tuesday.
All right, you answered that so quickly. I want to squeeze in one more. The outside linebackers after Bud and Landry and Weaver, who's a draft pick, Simon, I guess the 4th guy. Who would be the 5th guy in that group? Adaney, Roberson. Who would be the next guy?
I think Adaney, just by virtue of special teams, that's how he's basically survived as many years as he did in Pittsburgh, and that's something that, listen, Roberson, they've been telling us that he's had his best camp so far. He's come in and he's looked at the best that he has, and he's come in with the right mindset. And if that's all that they're telling us about him, I consider that to be a kiss of death. So, like, I think Derek Roberson has his functional uses on third down, but Adaney gives you more, both as a pass rusher and as a special teams player.
Okay. Buck Reising just giving it to us right there. You can catch him tomorrow, the pre-game before Kevin Dyson and Blaine Bishop and myself. You can hear more Buck tomorrow, at 3 o'clock, and then we're on at 4 o'clock. We'll be after you again, just like we always are.
Well, listen, boys, I'm just consistently your opening act, so we all know who the power in the building is around here.
Yes, Blaine Bishop. He sits right here. Thank you, Buck. Appreciate it.
That's real funny.
See y'all.
Our director of content and director of power, Blaine Bishop. That was Buck Reising. At Buck Reising, of course, is always brought to you by Two Rivers Ford, home of the non-commissioned salespeople. When we come back, I'm going to put Blaine in the time machine. We have a DeLorean here with a flux capacitor, just like Michael J. Fox. I'm putting Blaine in it. We're going to 88 MPH next. Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone.
Buck Reising will always give you the best on the Titans and admittedly may stir it up a little along the way.
The more you stir it, the more it stinks. Ew, what? Well, I mean, that's kind of my job, isn't it? I'm supposed to stir. Now, fortunately, I smell good. So we don't got to worry about that.
The Buck Reising Show, Monday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. on 104.5 The Zone.
This is an easy one. Sometimes I challenge you, but this one's an easy. By the way, we're in beautiful Rockville, Tennessee Champions Run Golf Course, 2021 Summer Zone Golf Classic. Beverages, and people are consuming some. TriStar beverages, Red Dog wine and spirits, fistful of bourbon as well. I've seen people carrying their boxes around.
Yeah. This is home of the living legend, Becky. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Becky Holt is how she's known. Little Becky Holt around these parts.
Oh.
Yeah. When this was a turf farm, as she told me.
A turf farm.
All right, here we go. Back in time with Blaine Bishop. We can't waste a good Huey Lewis in the news song without paying off the tees here. So it was the fourth preseason game for you in 1994. You were the day before that game. Your 8th round draft pick. You've switched positions by now. What are you thinking today? I don't know if that game is on Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Who did we play?
Now that I don't know.
Oh,
do you know?
Okay. Yeah, right.
Okay. Sometimes I know more about this stuff.
Watch this. Is this my rookie year or my second year?
This is your rookie year.
Oh, okay.
24 hours before kickoff, what were you thinking? Because there's a bunch of guys thinking whatever it is that you were thinking, they're thinking the same thing right now.
All right, I have to give you a backdrop then now that you've asked me this. Because here's what I was thinking, and this is the only reason why. I'm going to say it first just so y'all can go, I was thinking about I'm going to get cut.
Oh.
Yeah, through my 4th preseason game, my rookie season. Reason why? First preseason game, tear my MCL. I get ear hosed on kickoff. We've been balling like for 4 weeks, then you have 4 weeks of training camp.
Yep.
And I'm running down. It was the second preseason, I'm sorry. First preseason game, I'm up there making all kind of tackles. Second, they did a cross block where you don't see him. And the guy ear hold me. I didn't have any idea I was about to make the tackle. I was like smiling while I got ear hold. Sprained my MCL and thought, this is over. They're gonna cut me. And until John McClain wrote an article in the paper that 4th preseason game, because I missed 2, the rest of the 2nd and the 3rd, and did not play the 4th.
Oh.
He was like, this kid is a lock to make the roster.
The legend wrote that about you.
Yeah, and I was like, I sure hope he's right. Let me find out who he is and go ask him, did he get that from someone of the coaches in a nice way?
Right.
He says, oh, no, you've earned it. So I was actually thinking I was going to get cut only because I was injured. And I wasn't practicing. I had a knee brace on as a DB. You can't move around like that. I could run straight, but I couldn't make cuts and turns. And, it was just, time. I just needed time to let it heal. But, yeah, I was thinking I may get cut and put on the practice squad. Yeah, so I was really nervous. But before that, I was thinking I had a shot to not only make the roster, but that I was going to contribute not just on special teams, but I was pretty much in the dime. I call it dime package, which is the 6 DB. So there's the nickel and then an extra guy. So I thought I was participating a lot in those packages. So I thought I had a great shot of making it. But early on during training camp, there were so many DBs. I felt like, why the heck did they draft me? And there's no spot for me. And fortunate enough for me, 3 guys got injured and they were out for the year. And let alone the starter who was a Pro Bowl player, Bubba McDowell, the year before. And so that helped me out and kind of maneuvered me around. And maybe that got me to still be on the roster opening day. I could still run, change directions by week 1. But, yeah, I was really nervous. Just think about that now. You got injured week 2 at the beginning, and then you don't practice for 2 weeks, and you're a rookie last-round pick. So, there's a lot of guys that get missed and then don't make it all because bad timing, luck of the draw, and those things. I was very fortunate and blessed to even make the roster after that.
I know you, and you ask questions, and you follow along. So how active were you in the meetings?
Before I was injured, I was very active.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would ask questions. I was the why guy. It's the nature of who I am, though. You ask the why questions when you're growing up as a kid in class. And so not to say, trying to be a smarty pants, because some people took it that way. It was just like, okay, but why are we doing that? So I can understand that way. I'll understand it even deeper.
Right.
And it'll sink in that this will happen all the time when they do these circumstances. And so I was always the explain it to me guy. Some guys aren't that way because they don't want to know and they feel like they don't need to know.
Right.
So, So I was always asking questions. They did just call Buddy Ryan at that time. It just called me 23. Everybody was by their jersey number. So I thought that was intimidating. By the way,
Okay.
yeah, that was very intimidating because sometimes he wasn't in good light. Like, do you want to go back home?
23.
Yeah. To nothing, or do you want to do what I tell you to do?
Once you made the team, though, was he like, all right, Blaine,
No.
you stayed 23?
Oh no. We're talking about a guy who used to polish his white shoes. This guy would put them up on the desk, his feet, and it was intimidating. I'd go to the back of the room and hopefully you didn't know I was there as a rookie. Yeah, there was no way around it. I didn't even want him to say anything to me. No, even on the field, because he started telling me, hey, you need to start hitting people. I don't know what happened. He said, but you stop hitting people. I said, oh, the head coach told me don't hit the starters because, the twos would go against the ones. He says, what? He said, if you want to make this roster, you better hit everything that runs by you. He said, so if a bumblebee runs by you, hit it. I'm like, uh-oh.
Was this sprinkled with expletives when he said it?
Yeah, I'm not going to say what he was saying. But I'm going to tell you this. Then I was like, well, am I supposed to listen to the head coach or the defensive coordinator? And he would follow that up with, if you want to make this roster, you better hit everything that moves. I'm like, uh-oh. Crap, what is it? I mean, but the head coach told me don't touch anybody. So guess what I did? I kind of played it out slowly. I just like thud up, boom, boom, boom. And Buddy would look at me and say, hey, 23. That's not it. That's not it. So then I just said, forget it, man. What I have to lose? I just start hitting people again.
There we go. Little segment called Back in Time with Blaine Bishop as we get some story time.
Scared. I was scared out my you-know-what.
You made it, though, man. You made it 10 years. Zones 2021 Summer Golf Classic. Again, that's where we are. We're going to be here another hour watching these people play golf in front of us. A lot of great prizes provided today. Seymour Putter Company, Nashville Soccer Club, Brentwood Jewelry, Southern Trophy House, and the Nashville Predators, too. Back with hour number 2 of the show, including a look at the Bears with Jeff Dickerson coming up.
It's the third and final preseason game, and the Titans welcome Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears to Nissan Stadium. Thank you, NFL, for shortening the preseason and giving us an extra regular season game. What a catch! Mike Keith and Coach Mack have the kickoff tomorrow night at 6 on your home for Titans football and flagship for Titans Radio. 104.5 The Zone.
For all my CEOs, business owners, and HR executives out there, we know you're going through some of the most challenging times in history. Finding good employees is harder than ever, and your options for help are limited. My friends at Master Staff Global Employment Solutions are hosting a special seminar that will give you your business valuable
34.5 degrees under the porch with the ceiling fans blowing where we are. But the golfers are cool, having a great time playing here, and lots of folks from the zone hanging out. It's been fun visiting with the golfers and having a great time out here. We want to say thanks to everybody who sponsors this thing and helps us to do it. Our friends at Two Rivers Ford, powered by Ford, driven by people. Comprehensive Security, Uptown Male Spa, Ferguson PPE, RTM Roofing, R3 Contractors, Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, King and Associates Insurance, Mark Spain Real Estate, Brentwood Jewelry, and, of course, Terry Marlin and the fantastic people at Fight DMD. So many people involved in making this thing happen. Blaine, it's always fun to come out here. It's fun to catch up with all the people who listen to the zone and make this station what it is. The people who listen to the station and who interact with us every day, they're the reason why the station is what it is. Just all the great people who love this station. They make it.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt about it, man. Just to see this beautiful view, we got to make sure we take a picture of this and the clouds and how clear and the mountains right there. Oh, man.
Nice.
Oh, I feel like this should be my back porch. I should go buy that land over there to the right over there, Mickey. Yeah, that'd be nice. We could look at these mountains every day.
That's not quite as mode as
and do the show out there, like we're here every day.
Almost as nice as Mickey's backyard.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, with that waterfall.
Right.
Yeah, that was pretty nice though there.
All the poison ivy.
Yeah. Well, we were all over Mickey's house yesterday, so that was great. Him and his family.
We had a team meeting.
Yeah, we
got to get ready for the season.
Yeah, Lucas is actually our captain. We wanted a young captain who could lead us down to the promised land for years to come. No, actually, our wives were the captain. Last night, anyway.
Lucas is laughing like, yeah, I know y'all's wives are the captain, you two knuckleheads.
Yeah.
Titans tomorrow will play their final preseason game. I'm still getting used to 3 preseason games, and it's weird. There was a formula that almost everybody used when there were 4 of them. 32 teams did 32 different things this year.
What are you talking about as far as playing time?
Yeah, as far as like who played and when the starters did. Now, some people just say I'm not playing starters, or there's some people that never played in the preseason. But there were a whole lot of people that just said, this is the way we're doing it this year. To me, that's been an interesting experiment. It's just to see how different organizations handled the 3-game preseason.
It depends on where you think your team is as a head coach. And some of them feel like regardless of, if the team is a playoff contending team or not, they want their guys to play. I remember Tom Brady has already, played in some preseason games. And where Tannehill looks like, well, because of COVID now for sure, it's not going to be playing any. And then after last season where nobody played preseason game, I think some coaches sat back and said, you know what, maybe we can get by without actually playing preseason games. If you do, maybe just a series or 2 for my starters or who I know is going to be on my roster, going to carry us our team because we have now an extra game, and eventually it'll be 18 and eventually it'll be 20. So probably it'll end up being no preseasons again at some point in our lifetime. I guarantee you that, in 20 games. But as of right now, yeah, a lot of teams are doing a lot of different things depending on if they're in a situation where they're competing for starting job, or maybe they want to keep a high salary veteran around and let a young guy take over. So everybody's in different situations. So it's always intriguing. And what would make me really nervous at this time, if I was a starter but they wanted us to play and we're going against the 2s of the other team, that would piss me off, because if that guy toasted me being a DB, now I look like I got toasted by a second-string guy who's not actually even a starter.
Right.
And so you better go out there guns a-blazing. If you're a starter in this league, and it doesn't matter who you go against, you better let them know that you're the real deal. Yeah, because that can expose some guys and make coaches now take a second look and go, I think he may be on the downward slope.
And you can't even crack that window, can you? You
No.
got to keep that window nailed shut all the time.
All the time.
Oh, no, man, I'm going to go out there and play like it's the Super Bowl. So, no, this window's staying nailed shut, I can promise you.
Especially if you're an aging veteran. When I say that in a real world of sports, in NFL, you get 30, all of a sudden now you're a different player. Like, oh, well, can he still do it? They'll start questioning and doubting until you close the door and say, no, this guy still got the goods.
Our guy Bam has got the goods. We love taking calls on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline, 615-737-1045. Bam wanted to check in to start this 2 o'clock hour. What's up, Bam?
Yo, what's good, fellas?
Hey, what's going on?
Yeah, you tell us.
Man, look, I wanted to start something with y'all, something called Funky Fridays, man, where I give you a funky music story every Friday.
Okay.
Trying to start the weekend off and get us ready for the weekend for football.
Go ahead and blow our minds then. We're awaiting it.
Or Mickey's our music
Nah,
expert.
man, look, so I remember one time, Mickey, like when you first started, how, you know, your anticipation and everything was up when you got on stage and stuff. Okay, so imagine this. We rehearsed with the Ohio players for, when I did that tour, the first run I did, we rehearsed 3 months straight, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. All right? So the first show we did was in Los Angeles, California. 20,000 people there, bro. I forgot the whole intro to the show. I mean, I just totally just like, I mean,
You
we
froze
rehearsed
up, huh?
relentlessly. Like, I'm talking about, it was like clockwork we rehearsed. Like, for like 10 minutes, I just went blank, man, in front of all those people. But after that, you know what I'm saying? I mean, after I got over my nerves, it was a beautiful thing. So I said that to say, even no matter where you're at, whether you're in football, whether you are in, you know, music,
Yes.
whatever it is, you're going to have that moment to where you have a brain fart. So brain farts are okay. You know, as long as we don't have them in the playoffs again, Ryan Tannehill is allowed to have one brain fart. Just one brain fart a year. That's it. Blaine, have you ever had a brain fart before?
Oh, man.
He had a
I
brain fart.
Yeah, brain fart. Yeah, I was sitting there trying to think about it, and I can give you only one time that actually happened, and it was in my rookie year. And we had a play sheet for us. We had to know all the plays when the coach would give us a signal of 1, 2, 3, or 4 from the sideline with his hand. And whatever formation they came out, they called it an AFC sheet. One meant AFC, number 2 meant BTF, which blitzes the formation. And then they had the 46 AFC and 46 BTF, blitz the formation. So whatever formation they came out of, you had to know what to run. And then on the motions and all the adjustments and shifts and everything else. Well, my rookie year, the first time I got out there to actually partake in this is when I got the chance to start with like week 9 or 10 or somewhere where the season has started is going on. So I don't know. It might have been 8 game. And we got out there and I know every single play, every time they line. I know. First play, I'm standing next to the middle linebacker who's also getting the plays, and we're supposed to be disseminating to everybody else. He calls, like, you know, BTF, and they line up, and I'm going, uh-oh, what are we supposed to do? And when I say that is, they shifted. I knew initially what to do, but then when they moved, I didn't already have in my mind anticipating what they would move to know what we would check to. I ran so fast next to the the middle linebacker to get the call that there was the adjustment to that play. You talking about when I got to the sideline, I was checking the back of my pants to see if I kind of had let one slip out there because I was, you know, pooping in my pants. I was so nervous. After that, I was like, oh, man. Because once you get jilted a little bit, it felt like I know everything, and then all of a sudden you don't, and you freeze up. Oh, that was definitely nerve-wracking for me. So after that, here's what I did to make sure that never happened. I just stood next to the middle linebacker the rest of the game. Then got the call and then ran to my spot. I wanted to be safe as you. And the middle linebacker at the time was Michael Barrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, the U. He probably was the smartest player I've ever played with.
Did he catch on finally? Like, okay, man, here I'm just going to yell it at you so you don't have to come so close.
No. He was like, I got you, cowboy. He was the one who gave me the middle, you know, the nickname of cowboy.
Yeah.
Like, let me see you do that cowboy dance. 'Cause I used to do this little dance after I get a tackle or something. He was like, yeah, let me see the cowboy. So people used to laugh at me on other teams like, hey, man, what is that dance you're doing? I'm like, hey, man, I got the bow legs. I just got off the horse, man. I'm ready to do my dance.
All right, Bam.
Fun times, man. But I was a nervous wreck. It happens to.
What happened on that play? Do you remember?
Yeah, I froze up. I have no idea.
Oh, you know, like
they ran away and it didn't affect anything, but I was still barely in the right spot.
Okay. All right. I didn't know if it was like.
But I had no idea what I was doing.
Okay.
No, I did not. Nothing happened.
Okay.
But I was still nervous because I did not like, not knowing what to do. Yeah, that was uncomfortable. I don't know how guys do that. Some guys make it through games all the time. We're like, oh, man, I didn't know what I was supposed to do in that play. I'll be looking at it like, what? You didn't know what to do? Well, in worst case scenario, just get that guy. Like, I'm talking to DB.
Right.
Just get the guy.
Cover that guy.
Yeah. No, I don't know if I did, but I don't think that was what I was supposed to do. Oh, my gosh. You talking about then makes me nervous, and it's not even me. Oh, man, I'm working with this.
I bet watching film, too, next day, you'd be like, that guy does not know what he's doing right there.
No, I did not. I sit next to him, and I didn't want to get him in trouble, so I like elbow him. It's like, hey, man, this is why you're not supposed to be napping in the meeting.
Right, wake up.
Yeah.
We got to wake up because Jeff Dickerson's going to join us next. He covers the Bears for ESPN. Again, 2021 Zone Summer Golf Classic. Duncan brought the breakfast, and Uncle Bud's brought the lunch. Man, so good. Edley's Barbecue is bringing the dinner. Innovative Business Solutions doing all the signage, the beautiful signage out here on the course. Again, Bears and Titans tomorrow night here on the Zone. We'll talk Bears next on Blaine and Mickey.
The Install with Greg Cosell gives you an inside look into the film life of senior producer for NFL Films and NFL Matchup, Greg Cosell. The Install with Greg Cosell, joined by Buck Reising, every Wednesday afternoon at 6. Download now at Apple Podcast, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcast.
Fistful of Bourbon. Appreciate all of them helping sponsor this great event. We're joined now by Jeff Dickerson, joining us from beautiful Chicago at Dickerson ESPN, the Bears beat reporter. Jeff, Chicago is one of those interesting places because it can literally freeze you to death, and in the summer it can burn you to death. I love Chicago, but you guys have the most extreme weather, and it goes both ways up there.
First of all, great to be with you guys. I feel Chicago is the greatest summer city in the country. Now, unfortunately, it's only the greatest summer city in the country because, yes, the winters, they do present quite the conundrum for a lot of us up here because there's so much to do here in the summer. And I used to live in the city by Wrigley Field for 7 glorious years before we moved out to the suburbs. There literally is like a street festival every week. There are more bars than the eye can even imagine. It's like literally Broadway times 1,000, honestly, in some of these neighborhoods. But then when it gets to be the winter and it's so cold and there's so much snow and ice, you ask yourself, do I really want to do this for another year? So far, my answer has been yes. But one of these days, guys, I don't know. Maybe the answer will be no, and I could be relocating someplace down south.
Come on down to Nashville, man. We got enough hush puppies and sweet tea for everybody.
Listen, it's breaking my heart. ESPN is not allowing us to travel in the preseason. That's kind of a newer rule. But Nashville is one of my absolute favorite cities. It's probably saving me about $1,000 in bar tabs from down on Broadway, not being there this weekend, but my heart certainly will be missing it, trust me.
Hey, when you came on with us, we're doing our show from our station golf tournament, and I was reading the beverage sponsors, and I wanted to do that. That was intentional because, like a fine wine, apparently it takes Matt Nagy's offense a few years to age before it's aged to perfection. I know that quote has gotten a lot of mileage that, well, this thing, you can't just do it in a year. It takes years to learn the Matt Nagy offense.
Yeah, when Matt said that the other day, that was a bit of a one we were like, oh, boy, did he really say it like that? But he did. And, I mean, I think what he was trying to say is that at least now, after being around these guys for several years, there is more of a familiarity. However, I think anyone would argue that, the average coach in the NFL gets, 2 years to win before they're fired, basically, right? I mean, so it's not as if you can go into a job being like, don't worry, 4 years from now, my offense is going to be where it needs to be. And that really, guys, if you want to talk about the Bears truly and what the story about this season is going to be, it's about the offense. So much focus, of course, is on Justin Fields and Andy Dalton and all the quarterback stuff, but the offense in general has been so underwhelming the last couple of years. Even in 2018, when the Bears had this historically great defense, the offense was very hit or miss. In the last 2 years, it's regressed. It's been even worse. So, I mean, there is a lot of pressure, I know, on Matt Nagy, not just to get the quarterback thing right with Fields, but just in general to get the offense more productive, more consistent, not abandoning the run at the first sign of trouble, trying to use David Montgomery, use Allen Robinson in the passing game. If they could do that with their defense, they've got a chance to be okay. But if the offense doesn't get substantially better, guys, unfortunately, I think this is going to be a team that's probably not going to make the playoffs.
Some good stuff starting off here from Jeff Dickerson at Dickerson ESPN, Chicago Bears reporter.
Well, Jeff, man, with that nugget you just gave us, whose seat is hotter in my mind, Ryan Pace or Matt Nagy? I mean, here, what's going on?
Well, and here's the unfortunate thing is, Nagy has made the playoffs 2 of the last 3 years. Now, you guys know last year the Bears backed into the playoffs. I mean, they got hot at the very end of the year against some very bad teams. Did not look good against New Orleans in that opening round playoff loss. But to make the playoffs 2 out of 3 years, I hate to say it, guys, in Chicago, it doesn't happen very often. I mean, compared to John Fox and Mark Trestman, Matt Nagy looks like Vince Lombardi having making the playoffs this much. So the last thing they want to do, they do not want to fire Matt Nagy. They do not want to fire Ryan Pace. Absolutely not. That is not what they're thinking going into this year. That is like worst case scenario. But I think for Nagy, he was hired in Chicago because of the offense, because he came from Kansas City, because he's an Andy Reid guy. And I think personally, again, just covering the team every day. I'm not in the locker room with the guys, but I can just see being around. Well, not as around as much as we'd like to because of COVID the last couple of years, but you get my point. I think Matt Nagy does a lot of good things as a coach. I think he's a player's coach. I like how he runs everything. I like how he keeps it very upbeat. He's got a lot of energy. He's not a jerk to the guys, treats them very professionally. But, again, he's going to be judged ultimately on the offense and developing Justin Fields. So his seat certainly, I don't say it's like scorching hot, but, I think he needs to have a good year offensively. And Ryan Pace just has to prove that Justin Fields was the right pick. The second-round pick, you're not going to see him, guys, tomorrow. That's Tevin Jenkins out of Oklahoma State. He had back surgery. Didn't have one snap at practice this summer, and that was your projected left tackle. So that's not working really in Ryan Pace's favor. There was the whole Trubisky thing. That didn't work out. Adam Shaheen was a second-round pick. That didn't work out. Kevin White was a first-round pick. A lot of didn't work out. Haven't worked out with the Bears. So I think both guys are under pressure to win, but I think it would take a real clunker, like a 4-win, 3-win season for these guys to get fired.
Man, you touched on a couple things that I want to hit on, and one of them is the offensive line. They've had some injury issues. Will they be back for the regular season? And why do they think like Jason Peters, a 39-year-old, is going to come in and do some serious work as a starter?
Yeah, and when you don't have an offensive line, it's going to be tough. And so they had the Tevin Jenkins thing happen, and that's a huge disaster because he was going to be their left tackle. They did sign Jason Peters. If you look at what they have right now, Jason Peters at 39, who was fishing when the Bears called him to sign him. He was trying to stay in shape, but I think everyone knows it's hard to stay in great football shape when you're not in camp. Yeah. You're, 39 years old. These are things, you're an offensive lineman, so weight's always going to be a bit of an issue. But if you look at what else they have, he's their best shot right now. So they just got to get him ready. They've had other injuries on their offensive line. They just got Jermaine Ifedi back. He's going to be the right tackle. They just got James Daniels back. He's going to be their right guard. Except for Cody Whitehair, who's really a good player, their left guard. They do like Sam Mustipher. He's their center, second-year guy. Second year in the starting rotation out of Notre Dame. He's very promising, but it's a patchwork offensive line. And that's why, Andy Dalton in the preseason games has not looked good. But if you look at, what has Andy Dalton had to work with here? It's an offensive line that has been in shambles. They hasn't played with Allen Robinson yet. They haven't played David Montgomery yet in the preseason except for one snap. So, it's a question mark. And that's why, for all the encouraging signs you have seen from Justin Fields, the overall offense is just as alarming as it's been the last couple of years. There are just so many question marks there. It's hard to know where to begin.
Well, that's why everybody questions that Andy Dalton is going to be the starter. Who's had the better training camp? We're not there. We're looking from afar. Your offensive line issues. So naturally, everybody's going to say, well, Fields gives you another dynamic of running around. Does he know all the plays and getting all the checks? Probably not. But who's played the best to this point?
Yeah, so the way that I look at it, I've covered the Bears since 2004. So I've had to endure, all of the preseason stuff like everyone for a long time. I truly look at practice a little more than these preseason games for two reasons. Number one, we all know the preseason is, as much as you try to tell everyone, don't overreact to the preseason, people just overreact all the time. You can't. That's a losing battle, especially in Chicago. Every year you're like, everyone, listen, you can't get too high, you can't get too low. It's the preseason. Then one thing happens and the whole city erupts. Oh my God, it's the preseason. But so that, and number two, that Bears defense, if they can stay healthy, is going to be pretty good. So I liked watching the ones versus the ones every day in practice. I think Andy Dalton had a better overall camp. Okay, I think he started a lot stronger than Justin Fields, who I think made a lot of improvements as camp went on. You can't deny the fact that Justin Fields brings that element of speed and movement outside the pocket. He's just a stud athlete. He's got all the ability. I don't see any deficiencies. I don't see anything he doesn't have. Now, he still is inexperienced like any rookie quarterback would be. it's a lot to process. It's a lot to handle for someone. And I think the Bears are truly trying to do the right thing for a team that has never had a good quarterback plan, like ever, like 70 years, you know. This is actually a really good plan. They're trying to see it to fruition, but everyone wants them to junk the plan after 2 preseason games. We're trying to be like, it's just the preseason. Like, let's see how this plays out. So, but it's going to be Fields' job. I would say my best guess is by week 6 or 7, Justin Fields will be the Bears starting quarterback. But I believe, and the Bears believe, the longer they can delay that, the longer that they can have him sit and learn a little bit, the better off he's going to be in the long run. And quite frankly, I agree. I think it would be nice to let him have a little time to get everything together, to really know the playbook, to really know the plays, to be super comfortable with everything, as opposed to just throwing him out there before he's ready. But you try to tell that to people in Chicago, and they want to slam the door on your face. They don't want to hear that.
Man, we're on with Jeff Dickerson, is covering the Chicago Bears for the ESPN NFL Nation. And one more to add to that. I know I'm going overboard with Mickey, my partner, but who is the most beloved quarterback in Chicago Bear history? And then the second part of that is, who is the best quarterback in Chicago Bear history?
Well, you know, the best Bears quarterback was Sid Luckman. He's a Hall of Famer. We're talking 70 years. So I'm sure back then, when the gentlemen were all wearing suits and fedoras to football games back in like the 40s, I'm sure he was beloved. Since then, I mean, I guess I would have to give it to Jim McMahon because they won the Super Bowl and because he was such a personality. But his career was disappointing because he was injured, and they only won that one Super Bowl with a roster that was loaded and should have won a lot more. I think Jim McMahon still, because of the 85 Bears and just the never-ending nostalgia and myth around that team, is the most beloved. The most talented, not to add a third part to the question, but I'll say it, the most talented was Cutler. Now, I know there's a lot of Jay people down in Nashville. Okay?
Yeah, that's what we wanted to hear.
You know, I covered Jay for the whole run, in all 9 years in Chicago. Jay is an amazing athlete. I mean, amazing athlete. When Jay says he could be an Olympic player in handball, I believe him. Like, I think Jay could have played baseball in college. He could have played basketball in college. He was the greatest athlete. I would never use the word beloved and Jay Cutler in the same sentence, though. That just wasn't the reality here. But he, in terms of ability, that's what I look at with Justin Fields is, you know, and I love multi-sport athletes. I'm a big proponent of that. My son is a 3-sport athlete. I tell kids all the time, man, you've got to play more than one sport. Think if there's any comparables as far as athleticism, it's to Jay, who was a great 3-sport athlete in high school. Justin Fields was a multi-sport athlete. He could be a professional baseball player. I think where and Jay ran almost as well as Justin Fields. That was so underrated. I just think that, you know, Justin Fields might do a little bit of a better job with the nuances, right? As a young player, understanding the responsibilities that come with being a quarterback, understanding the importance of locker room dynamics, interpersonal relationships. I think Jay figured that out at the end. He really did. But at that point, though, he had been beat up so much and injuries, and, you know, that was a shame. I think where Justin Fields has the edges, he understands that now. And I think that's going to manifest itself into him being a really good quarterback whenever that time comes that he plays.
Jeff Dickerson covers the Bears for ESPN in Chicago. Tell Titans fans, because we've only seen this dude about 2 weeks, and we think he could be the number 2 quarterback. What can they expect from Matt Barkley if he does wind up being on this roster? What are your memories, thoughts of him?
Yeah, Matt Barkley that was a tough situation because the Bears were really bad. I mean, oh my gosh. If you wanted to cure, you know, sleepless nights, you should have watched the John Fox Bears because they would have passed you right out. They were so terrible. Just terrible job from top to bottom with that little regime there. But I thought Matt, you know, stepped in and made some nice throws. I thought he could throw us a nice deep ball from my memory. I just think I don't like I said, I think as a backup, I really think he is placed in a good spot. I think it was a little much to ask him to be a starter every single week. But I think someone, if he has to go in there, like if this Tannehill thing, continues, unfortunately, or if something else happens down the road and he's not available, I think Matt can step in and do a pretty good job. But I just think I wouldn't feel comfortable asking him to take over for an entire season. But as an emergency stopgap player, I think he could do quite well still at this age.
You got a lot of Titans fans scratching their heads right now. He's trying to beat out the incumbent longtime backup, a guy, Logan Woodside, who we still don't know too much about. He's hung around. I called him Twinkies after a nuclear war. He just keeps on surviving. It's pretty amazing. All right. We've talked about we've mentioned like 7 quarterbacks on the show. Here's the craziest thing. The Bears' third-string quarterback is the Super Bowl MVP, Nick Foles. I don't even know if people know he's still there until he did that outlandishly amazing news conference where he said, I'm just going to keep killing it against the threes until somebody calls me trying to get a job in Indy. What is going on with Nick Foles besides slinging it against the threes and cashing checks?
That was like a hostage video. Like he was begging for someone to come in and save him. I was like, wow, Nick, this is really – we're going over the top here with this one. Nick Foles obviously is overqualified to be a third-string quarterback. I mean, come on. I mean, he is, he could still play. I'm not saying that he's the answer to any problems out there long-term or anything, but this guy can play football. He's positioned where he is because the Bears are paying him some good money. And, to trade for his contract, you would really need him to start and play right away. And, no team has been in that position yet. The Colts thought, they obviously feel like Carson Wentz is going to be available for week 1, and they kind of knew that at the time. So that was not going to happen. So, yeah, Nick's telling you the truth, by the way. When he says that he's slicing up the number 3s, he is. It's almost unfair. I mean, he's going against guys that aren't going to make the team, and he definitely knows what he's doing. So he's still there, still the third quarterback, and barring someone taking that contract, my guess is the Bears aren't just going to want to eat that money. They're going to keep him around.
Jeff Dickerson, our guest, covers the Bears for ESPN.
Well, since we're always talking about the Bears, usually you're never talking about the quarterback. You're always talking about the defense. Can Khalil Mack and this defense carry them into the playoffs again?
I don't know if they can carry them into the playoffs without the offense picking up their portion of the slack. I think if they can play some complementary football, I think the Bears are going to be a good team. Are they going to beat Green Bay? I don't think so. Aaron Rodgers has got that revenge thing looking like that's going to happen again. I mean, when that dude's scoring, you got to watch out. So I don't think they're going to be better than the Packers. But can they be better than the Vikings and the Lions? Absolutely, if the offense does their share. I think defensively the Bears have a lot of good players. They got Khalil Mack. Keem Hicks is really tough up front. Roquan Smith is emerging into one of the better young inside linebackers in the NFL. Eddie Jackson made a Pro Bowl. They've lost some pieces. Having Kyle Fuller get released was unfortunate because of salary cap reasons. So there's some question marks at corner. They've got some question marks at nickel. They really need Robert Quinn, guys, to have a bounce-back year because they gave him $30 million guaranteed, and Quinn had 2 sacks last year. Ooh, that was tough. That was tough to watch, and by his own admission, that was tough. So I think with a new coordinator and Sean Desai, first time he's had this job, I think the Bears can be a good defense. I wouldn't say they're going to be like they were under Fangio a couple of years ago when they were like number 1 in almost every category. But I think they can be close to a top 10 defense, and that will be good enough if the offense makes some significant strides, as people around here hope they do.
Well, lastly, real quick, Jeff, was there any truth to Gruden trying to trade back to get Khalil Mack to the Raiders? Tell me it's not so.
Sure. I'm sure that was true. Absolutely. And I believe the Bears' response was no, a firm no. I mean, Khalil Mack had a shoulder injury last year, so he was not 100%. He was on the report, but he played every game as a guy of that stature should. I mean, they look up to him. He's gotten through it the best he can. He's healthy this year, so I think he's going to get off to a really good start. I wouldn't be surprised, guys, after a month of the season that he's got himself about 4 or 5 sacks already because he looks physically so much better this summer than he did all of last year with that shoulder problem. So he's making a ton of money. He knows he has to produce, and the last couple of years have just kind of been okay by his standards. But I really do think with that shoulder problem now healed, he's going to turn it loose. And that, again, is why they just need Robert Quinn to give them some supplemental pass rush on the other side so teams just can't double and triple team Khalil Mack every single snap, as some offenses have been known to do.
Oh, good stuff.
Yeah, hey, Jeff, great stuff. When you get back down to Nashville, look us up, man. We can't wait to meet you when the travel ban gets lifted. At Dickerson ESPN, that's where people can follow you, and they need to do that to keep up on all the latest with the Chicago Bears. Thank you, man.
Appreciate it, Jeff.
Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend.
You
yes,
too.
sir. Jeff Dickerson right there. When we come back, what do we do on the last segment of every Friday? We call our shot. We're going to call our shot next. Blaine and Mickey.
It's the third and final preseason game, and the Titans welcome Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears to Nissan Stadium. Thank you, NFL, for shortening the preseason and giving us an extra regular season game. What a catch! Mike Keith and Coach Mack have the kickoff tomorrow night at 6 on your home for Titans football and flagship for Titans Radio. 104.5 The Zone.
Former MMA champ Tyron Wood. saying, yeah, I mean, you don't want that guy as your starter, but as a backup quarterback, that dude can win you some games.
Well, he said starter for a whole season.
Right, starter for a whole season, but could come in and be a stopgap type quarterback. And honestly, I mean, how many teams have the guy? How many teams have Neil O'Donnell as their backup quarterback where he could just come in and keep things going?
Well, he had the right mentality, and he was a former starter.
Sure.
So
and
he definitely understood that role.
So with a guy like Barkley, I just thought that was interesting because he and Logan Woodside are going to be battling for the starting job tomorrow.
Yeah, so since you're talking about that, and we're about to do call your shot, my shot is Matt Barkley's going to win the backup job. He is going to win it. Sorry, I hated Mac action. Toledo, Woodside, sorry, but you'll be number 3 starting Tuesday.
Well,
Woodside has something to say about it, though, tomorrow.
And the interesting thing about this is, and we talk in the second segment of the show with this, about this with Buck Reising, you ask him, now COVID's going to change some things based on who's in the protocol because some of these guys are probably still going to be in on Tuesday when the final roster drops.
So they both could make the roster.
Yeah.
But it's the one who has number 2 behind it is the winner.
Oh, absolutely. Because the other guy's probably going to live in a bunker and be the COVID quarterback after that.
Yeah, once Tanny time come back.
Lucas, you want to so Blaine's called a shot. He's ended the quarterback race for the Titans.
Yeah, I've ended it.
Lucas Panzica, is there something have you got a receiver thing that you can end here? Or are you going to end it for Mason Kinsey or for one of these guys, or what's your shot going to be?
It's week 0 of the college football season. I'm going to college football. Nebraska, Illinois, the Big Ten starts off tomorrow at noon. Scott Frost era is on a sinking ship. You don't see coaches at major programs like Nebraska get off to the start that he has gotten off to. And now NCAA investigation on top of it. It is a sinking ship. I think Illinois beats Nebraska tomorrow at noon.
Ooh, Brett Bielema, right? That's who's there?
It is Brett Bielema.
Yeah. Oh, I like him. I do.
Okay, this is written down, so I have backup here.
Uh-oh, let me see. Let me make sure.
My shot, Illinois beats Nebraska -7. Illinois loaded with experience and seniors. They have 40-something COVID seniors or whatever. It's unbelievable how many guys they brought back that are seniors. Brett Bielema wins his debut. Guys love playing for Bielema.
Yes.
And he's been successful in that league. And like you said, Scott Frost is on one of those rope bridges that goes over the gorge, and you're on there shaking and about to fall.
A new AD, too, who didn't hire him.
Trev Alberts. Hey, man.
Mm-hmm.
Already 3 losing seasons. You don't see bounce backs like that at this level.
I can't wait to watch college football tomorrow. So another shot that I'm going to call is my son has got a soccer game. I will probably tape College Game Day and then go back and watch it tomorrow night. I will watch College Game Day. I love College Game Day.
Hey, Rabble's favorite player is officially a Manchester United player.
Okay, that was the last thing that I had on my notes. I had on my notes.
Man, did you guys collaborate before we came?
No, but I'll show you. I have backup.
I think you and Lucas talked about this last night when we were at your house.
No, this is written down.
No,
Lucas.
I cannot see that.
What's up in the soccer world?
No.
Because everybody's changing teams right now. I saw the Ronaldo thing, and I was like, okay, put that in football terms. Would that be when Tom Brady went to the Bucs or something?
Well, $33 million Tom Brady is not making, but yeah, it's something like that.
It's the players. It's similar comparison because they haven't aged, right? They've both gotten younger as their careers have progressed. But Brady,
and the stats back that up for Ronaldo. He's got 250 goals in 250 games since he turned 30 or something.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And he's 36. He looks like he's 25. So yeah, I guess that's a good comparison. Everybody thought it was Manchester City, and then it was a quick pivot, and now it's Manchester United. That's official, and that's where he started his career after he left Portugal. Was Manchester United, made a name for himself. So yeah, the transfer market is absolutely nuts in Europe right now.
Transfer market. Don't say trade even. Transfer market.
That's what it is. You pay money to get players, and then you got to pay the players.
And then you got to pay the players, so they have to double dip. Their money's so long, they double dip.
All right, I'm going to tell you this, Lucas. My son's got a soccer game tomorrow. I'm going to tell him, hey, be good at soccer. I need you to be good at soccer so you can get transferred one day.
Or be a punter.
Yes, Brett Kern, if you're listening, my son is awaiting his punting lessons. Punted one at Blaine last night.
Yeah.
Caught that sucker with one hand.
Yeah, but he was pretty good there. All I can tell him about punting is just stretch.
We can't stretch the show anymore. We got to go because 3HL's coming up next. Again, thanks to everybody who made this Zone Summer Golf Classic happen. One more mention for our last round. Prizes provided by Seymour Putter Company, Nashville Soccer Club, Soccer, Brentwood Jewelry, Southern Trophy House of the Nashville Predators. Thanks to all the other sponsors as well. We will see you Monday. 3HL is coming up next. And Blaine, what do you say when we leave?
As always, be safe this weekend and peace.
Dupree and Caleb Farley. You hear them on the exclusive Titan station.
104.5 The Zone.